I've followed Yasmani Grandal's career. You know, like I know the guy, and I've looked into him before this because, ironically enough, we talked about him a few weeks ago. So it's not like I've dug deep into his numbers and stuff right now. But what I want to say is, man, I don't know, Jim. It's one of those, like you said, like I'm fearful like Grandal's just not good. I mean, he hasn't been good,
He,
and I'm
he
just
is
fearful that
aged.
that's
Yeah,
just
he has aged poorly these last couple
right.
years.
And like I get like there's a lot of issues that was going on in Chicago and a lot was involving him. So I don't know if maybe the change of scenery is actually going to help in this situation, right? Like maybe that will help. Maybe he just needed to get out of Chicago because it was draining the life out of him. And that's why he performed very weakly. I doubt it to be some extent, but he's just been very, very bad. And now it's another year, right? Like this is another year added on to his career and his resume that I just don't. I mean, there's a reason why he signed for $2.5 million. That's part of it, And sure, he'll come on.
That's less money than Austin Hedges got, by the way. Like that's how teams think of Yasmani Grandal. We all know Austin Hedges. Austin Hedges got more money than Grandal.
I'm speechless, but yes. And right, like that's where it's just this isn't to argue, fight, compare, whatever, but just this is why I really wanted Sanchez, for the $7 million in that sense. Like he is a difference maker. He brings talent to the team. He makes the club better. And the Yasmani Grandal, it provides insurance. Like that part I get, right? Like Henry Davis doesn't work out. Like there's still he's better than Ali Sanchez. I feel like that could be a fair comp, right? He's better than Ali Sanchez, but like that's where the bar is right now. Like, is the guy better than Ali Sanchez? How about can this guy help push us to the playoffs?
I'll say this about Grandal. He's not the guy he once was, obviously. Would I rather have had Gary Sanchez, right? We've been on this show this is the third week in a row now we're talking about catchers on this show, amazingly. And we talked about how they need to go out there and they need to get somebody kind of as like an insurance policy for Davis, like just in case something happens. I think Jason DeLay makes a perfectly fine backup catcher, but like if Henry Davis is able to catch, and we've talked about this quite a bit, if Henry Davis is able to catch and do it effectively, then this deal is just this is a backup catcher that you're signing, right? If Henry Davis isn't able to catch effectively, and you've got to scramble and you've got to go to Plan B, Grandal delay then becomes your Plan B, right? And as much as I don't like Yasmani Grandal, like I said, once the Gary Sanchez rumors came out, like I'll kind of all in on like Gary Sanchez would make a lot of sense here. Once they missed out on Gary Sanchez, you're now moving on to Grandal. Grandal delay is a better combo than delay Ali Sanchez. That's kind of where I'm at. So I don't really have too many complaints about this move. Like, do I necessarily like Yasmani Grandal? Not really. I think there's a tiny bit of bounce back potential here just because of the walk rate. Like last year's walk rate was basically the lowest it's been since 2017. So like if that walk rate can get back to like normal for him, then he's a perfectly capable major league backup catcher, right? Like that walk rate climbs back into the mid-teens where he's been pretty much his entire career.
Yeah.
Then this is fine. Like even with the power going away, the defense is still okay. He's not bad defensively. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's not bad. I don't really have any complaints here. I guess my only complaint would be like I wish they would have gotten somebody better for this spot. But the Pirates are better today than they were yesterday. Now, is that marginally better? Sure, probably. But this is what this is. This is an insurance policy in case Henry Davis doesn't work out. You now have Grandal delay instead of delay Sanchez. That's really all this is. $2.5 million. You're not expecting Grandal to really play a whole lot. But if he has to, it's a better situation today than it was yesterday.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, like, at all. I don't. It just, I guess my issue is the entirety of the offseason again. Like, that's where we're coming from. Like, every move, and I jokingly say now you're on to Rowdy, but I feel like every move outside of Rowdy has been talked in the same way, which is fine, but it's part of the problem. It's that, like, in a vacuum, this makes the team better. In a vacuum, this isn't bad. But when you look at all the moves together and say that this is the offseason that was put together for the 2024 Pirates, outside of Chapman, like, I'm sorry, but outside of Chapman, nothing is a needle mover. Nothing. And they all provide so much more risk. Like, the risk with Grandal isn't so much health like others are. But like, he's like, the risk is he is bad, and it's going to stay bad. The risk is he is who we thought he was. And as a bad player who provides negative war, right? Nothing positive. And that's my issue. Like I don't hate this, especially for $2.5 million. Like, I don't hate adding a Grandal for $2.5 million. For one, Grandal's a catcher I've loved. I mean, like, Grandal's a catcher I've wanted on the Pirates for actually some years now.
Yeah, you've loved Grandal for a while.
I just didn't really want him in 2024, and that's the year I get him.
Yeah.
Like, the one year I'm like, Grandal would not look good on this club is the year the Pirates get him. Yeah, I mean, 2021 is such an anomaly. I mean, you talk about 3 true outcomes, and the guy walked 23% of the time, struck out 22%, and then, like, hit how many home runs? 23. Like, that was such a weird year from him. I mean, such an interesting year from him, I should say, more or less than weird. But then, like, after that was his last good year, 3.5 WAR, and then he fell off. And again, like, I know there's a lot of issues that was happening inside the clubhouse in Chicago that time, and all of last year too. And again, like, he seemed like a big part of it. So again, maybe there's still more in the tank. He just, like, mentally wasn't there, and like, I'm over this. I don't know, but yeah, like, $2.5 million for Yasmani Grandal right now, I like that. But another one of these moves to cap off this, like, off season is just like, it's just not enough. That's just where I'm at. It's just mentally where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the offseason as a whole, and everyone that they've added is like the bare minimum that they could do. Like, except Chapman. Like, that was the one move where it was like, wow, okay, like, this is something, right? Everyone else, though, like Marco Gonzalez was two teams just threw away Marco Gonzalez because they didn't have room for him in their rotation, right? They're basically paying the Pirates to have Marco Gonzalez this year. So that was really your first acquisition. Edward Olivares was acquired, and I kind of like Olivares, but again, Edward Olivares was acquired because the Royals didn't have room on their roster to add, their flurry of free agents that they were signing. So you got Olivares, you've got Gonzalez, who are just kind of castaways. You've got Martin Perez, who was coming off, he won a World Series, but he was taken out of the rotation during the season. You add Rowdy Tellez, who was non-tendered and lost his job halfway through the year after being injured. Now you bring in on Yasmani Grandal, who clearly, again, isn't being brought in to start. He's brought in kind of as this insurance policy that we're talking about. Yeah, it's just not a lot of rocking the boat, like you mentioned, needle movers, right? None of these really are needle movers. These are all floor raisers. Like, all of these moves keep the Pirates from being like a 100-loss team, or probably even like a 90-loss team. Like, they keep the Pirates in like that 75-ish win range. But yeah, none of these moves are like, you know what, this is going to make this team good.
I guess where I'm at too is, like, I question how much it really raises the floor as well. Again,
I don't know.
like
Having Grandal, like if you need Grandal to start 80 games, that's better than Ali Sanchez starting 80 games by quite a bit.
Sure.
So I mean that's what I mean by like the floor. Like this makes the floor higher.
Sure.
Sure.
I'm sorry. This is where I'm at. So instead of like a -1 WAR player, you're adding possibly like a -0.5 WAR player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think Grandal is capable of putting up a better season. Like I said, I think if the walk rate comes back,
he's capable as
like I think if
much
the walk
as the
rate comes back,
Pirates are capable this year of winning 85 plus games. Like that variance is there.
It's
That
there.
variance is there. But in the same sense, they're also capable of winning 65.
I would put more money on the Pirates winning 85 than losing 65.
I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you. But my thing is, there's just such a high variance in this club, and Grandal adds to it. Like you're saying, it's better, but Grandal could easily be a negative WAR player. Like, he's been a negative WAR player 2 seasons in a row. So why is it insane to think he could, at the age of 35, fall off even more? And then when he was a -0.4, -0.1, like let's say he can't be a -0.5 WAR player this year. Like he absolutely could.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm alluding to here. It's just there's just so much of a variance that you're adding more of those type of players to this club that it doesn't really stabilize anything. Like I question what this, like the floor truly is. You bring me, like we're talking with Alex, the Rowdy and Carlos Santana. Like Santana raises that floor. He just doesn't really increase that ceiling too much. Where Rowdy Tellez, that variance, like Rowdy Tellez is a negative WAR player. He could easily also be a -1 WAR player this year again. Like he's already done it, so it could happen. And again, like that's just where I'm at. Like I don't really look at these as much as pushing the floors. So instead, that's what I'm getting at. Like Ali Sanchez, Grandal's probably better. I get that, but like marginally better. He could be just barely better than Ali Sanchez. That's a real risk that this turns out to be. So again, like that's just where I'm questioning how much the ceiling's truly being improved upon. Jim, I'm a week away. We talked about maybe 2 weeks. We talked about this 2 Starbucks ago. The words literally came out of my mouth, and this is from someone who likes Grandal. I question if I want Kurt Casale over Yasmani Grandal right now. Like that's the level of tier you're talking about as far as catchers that we're talking about. It's like who's remaining in free agency. And those are my words because I just feel like Kurt Casale's safer. Like I feel he could at least be a Major League Baseball player this year, and I fear Grandal could not. Like those are like you clip it from 2 weeks ago when I said.
Well, this kind of goes back to that conversation we had with Alex last week, right? Now, like, is Kurt Casale probably the safer option? Yes. Like, is Kurt Casale going to give you -1 more? Like, who's like more likely to give you -1 WAR, Grandal. or Casale? It's probably Grandal. But who's more capable of giving you 1.5 WAR, Casale or Grandal? Right. So I think that's what that's the play here, right? Like, there's still a little bit of upside in Grandal. Now, like, don't twist my words here and say that. Like Ryan was twisting my words all last night, saying I was applauding this signing.
Ryan.
Right? And I'm like, I'm not applauding this signing, but there is more upside to Yasmani Grandal than any of the remaining free agent catchers out there, right? And we'll go down the list: Manny Pena, Kurt Casale, Mike Zunino, Cam Gallagher. Those are the options. Like those are the other options right now. This is why Gary Sanchez would have made a lot of sense, right? So once Sanchez got off the board, that's what's left. And yeah, like can Grandal have a bad season? Yeah. And guess what? If he does, you gave him $2.5 million, right? And then you're still stuck with what you had. But there is some upside here. Again, I just kind of go back to that walk rate. I don't think Grandal's ever going to hit like he did in the past. But if Grandal can at least get that walk rate back to where it's been his entire career, I think he has the possibility of at least being somewhat useful. That's kind of my take here. I would rather the Pirates go for the more risky, high variance player, honestly, than the safe pick that is not going to give you any value whatsoever, but he's just not as bad as your other options. So again, if you're saying Jim, pick between Gallagher, Casali, Zanino, Grandal, and Manny Pena, I'm going Grandal. Like I think like if those are my options, I'm going Grandal.
So once again, to just say what I did before, I don't disagree with what you said right there. The problem lies in the fact that you chose to be left with those options. Like again, like that's what I'm getting. Like I don't disagree, but again, the upside could be there as much as the downside could be there, which is literally like the MO of the 2024 Pirates. Like that's just my issue with this team is again, like there is just so much variance and all the guys that they're bringing in add to that variance. I'm not saying Grandal was the wrong choice over Kirk Casali. I'm just saying what he provides and how that fits right into exactly the 2024 Pirates. Like this team could go literally any way right now for this 2024. And that's just where I'm nervous about. And again, like that's again, like I'm saying, like I don't think they're not capable of winning 85 games. I don't think they're not capable of competing for the division. I just don't think that they've put themselves in a position to feel confident that they will be in that position. And that's what the Grandals do, right? That's what the Rowdy Telez's do. That's what the Marco Gonzalez's do. They give you that possibility, right? That variance is there, but you don't feel confident. And it's because you've chosen all of these moves. And again, like that's again, like this is where I'm at, right? Like you put yourself in a position to be left with just these guys. So you're making the decision of would you rather have Grandal because of that upside? The answer is yes, I get it, but you put yourself in that position that was your choice. You could have made something. This isn't like I want this to not be misconstrued. This isn't the harp on because they missed out on Gary Sanchez, right? But like if you got Gary Sanchez and you made that happen, that removes all this conversation. And now you have that guy that's you're comfortable with that can make this team better. And you don't have to worry if he can be a negative WAR player.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in hindsight, I wish the Pirates went about this offseason entirely different.
Correct. I wish they
yeah.
shopped the other part of the store.